Welcome to Nightborne Whispers, where shadows speak and stories linger. Dim the lights, close your eyes, and let the eerie tales guide you through the mysteries of the night. Are you ready to hear what the darkness has to say? Let the whispers begin. Welcome back to Nightborne Whispers. Tonight, let me take you into the heart of a decaying Victorian mansion where dark secrets and an ancient, malevolent doll lie in wait. This is the story of Sarah and the doll in the attic. Sarah, a woman in her late 20s, stands outside a decrepit old Victorian house. The kind that towers ominously, surrounded by lifeless, gnarled trees, casting long shadows across the landscape. The house was her grandmother's, but now it sits abandoned, silent, watching. As Sarah stares at the house, unease washes over her. She remembers the uncomfortable feeling she had as a child visiting here, always wanting to be anywhere else. Now, with her grandmother gone, the house seems different, darker, as though something had awakened within its walls, waiting for her return. Sarah steels herself and climbs the crumbling steps. The wooden boards creak beneath her feet, and the front door groans as it swings open. Inside, dust floats in the air, and the ticking of an ancient clock echoes down the hallway. There's an oppressive weight in the air, as if the house itself is alive. Sarah tells herself it's just her nerves, but deep down, she knows better. Later that evening, Sarah finds herself drawn to the attic. It's the part of the house that always gave her chills as a child. Now, under the dim glow of a flickering bulb, she begins to sift through the forgotten boxes, the dust thick and heavy in the stale air. The attic is full of old things, relics of lives once lived. As Sarah digs through an old chest, her fingers brush against something smooth and cold. She pulls out a porcelain doll. The doll is strange, its glassy eyes too lifelike, too piercing. Its dress is tattered and stained, and the tiny, curled hands seem almost human. Sarah feels a sudden shiver run down her spine as she holds the doll. It feels wrong, like it's been waiting for her all this time. But there is no wind. The house is deathly still, and when she looks back, the doll seems to be staring at her. Its cold eyes follow her movements as she backs away, rattled. That night, Sarah tries to sleep, but the house is too quiet. The ticking of the clock downstairs is the only sound, a rhythmic reminder of the eerie stillness surrounding her. Just as she starts to drift off, she hears it, a faint creaking of floorboards outside her door, followed by the softest sound, a child's giggle. Her eyes snap open. She listens intently, heart pounding in her chest. But the house is quiet again. Sarah gets out of bed, opens the door, and peers into the hallway. Empty, but the floorboards creak, as if something had just moved. Something small, something light. She turns her gaze toward the attic door. It's slightly ajar. Sarah distinctly remembers closing that door earlier. Slowly, cautiously, she walks down the hallway and pushes it shut. But when she turns back to return to her room, the doll is sitting on her bed. It's propped against her pillow, its lifeless face pointed right at her. Sarah's breath catches in her throat. She whispers to herself, "I left you in the attic." The doll, of course, doesn't respond. But the atmosphere around her feels suffocating, as if something dark and unseen is watching her. Heart racing, Sarah picks up the doll and throws it into the hallway, slamming the door behind her. She lies back in bed, trembling, trying to calm her racing heart. But as the silence returns, so does the giggling, soft and distant, echoing through the empty house. Over the next few nights, things only get worse. The doll appears in different rooms throughout the house, no matter how many times Sarah locks it away. She wakes in the night to the sound of tiny footsteps outside her bedroom door, footsteps too light to belong to anything human. The whispers, too soft, Incoherent murmurs that rise and fall, always followed by that same eerie giggle. One night, Sarah wakes to a soft tapping at her window. She peers outside, but sees nothing. Yet, when she turns back, the doll is sitting there again, this time in the corner of her room. Its head is tilted, and its eyes seem to lock onto hers. Sarah's voice shakes as she whispers, "What do you want from me?" The doll doesn't answer, but the air grows heavier, darker, as if something malevolent has wrapped itself around her. No matter what she does, the doll won't leave. The whispers won't stop, and Sarah knows she is not alone in the house. Desperate for answers, Sarah digs through her grandmother's old belongings. Something about the doll's presence feels personal, like it's tied to this house, to her family. That's when she finds it. Hidden beneath the attic floorboards is an old, fragile diary. The pages are yellowed with age, but the words inside tell a story she never knew. Years ago, a young girl named Alice lived in the house, a distant relative who had died tragically. Alice had been a troubled child, prone to violent outbursts, her mind always plagued by something dark and unexplainable. After her death, it seemed Alice's spirit became attached to the doll she had loved so much. The doll had been her favorite toy, and now it had become her vessel. As Sarah reads on, her hands begin to tremble. The diary speaks of Alice's restless spirit, of her need to play, her desire for company. But her games are cruel, and those who disturb her are never safe. That night, the atmosphere in the house grows unbearable. Sarah is jolted awake by the sound of heavy footsteps outside her door. These aren't the light footsteps of a child. These are something else, something much darker. The door creaks open, and standing in the doorway is the silhouette of the doll. But it's not the same. Its form is taller, twisted, as though something far worse than a child's spirit is trying to break free. Sarah stumbles back, her heart racing. She whispers, "No, stay away," but the doll moves closer. Its glassy eyes gleam faintly in the darkness, and the whispers, those maddening whispers, grow louder, filling the room. Suddenly, the doll speaks. Its voice is no longer Alice's. It's something far more sinister. A distorted voice that echoes through the room, saying, "Play with me, forever." In a moment of desperation, Sarah remembers the final entry in the diary. "Return the doll to its resting place," it said, "or its curse will never lift." With no other choice, Sarah grabs the doll and races to the attic. The whispers grow louder, more frantic, and the air feels suffocating. She finds the old box hidden in the attic, the one where the doll had been stored long ago. With shaking hands, she places the doll inside and closes the lid. And just like that, the whispers stop. The house grows deathly quiet, but the silence is not comforting. It's heavy, filled with an unspeakable dread. The next morning, Sarah leaves the house for good. Her body is exhausted, her mind shattered by what she's seen. She locks the door behind her, hoping to leave the nightmare behind. But as she walks down the path, away from the house, a faint sound reaches her ears, the soft, unmistakable giggle of a child. Sarah doesn't look back. She knows what she'll see if she does. Because the doll may be locked away, but it's still waiting for someone else to disturb it. Someone new to play with. Thanks for listening to tonight's tale. Some things are better left undisturbed, and some dolls should never be found. Until next time, on Nightborne Whispers, stay safe. And whatever you do, don't go into the attic. You've reached the end of tonight's tale, but the shadows never truly sleep. If you're craving more eerie whispers, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for your next journey into the unknown. Until we meet again, rest well if you dare.